Today on Across the Fence, we're going to visit a warm climate on these cold winter days. And we'll learn some of the newest and latest research in plant science at the University of Vermont greenhouses. Hi, I'm Leonard Perry with University of Vermont Extension, and with me today at the UVM greenhouse is the manager, Colleen Armstrong. Thanks so much, Colleen, for spending some time to show us this wonderful facility. It just feels like the tropics here, nice and warm and humid.
It does.
It's just great. Wish we could convey that. So tell us a little bit about the greenhouse and what all's here.
Well, the greenhouses have been here for over 20 years now, which is remarkable, and the mission really is for teaching and research. So students use the greenhouses for coursework. They also use it for some independent study projects, their labs, and then faculty conduct research here in a wide range of plant science fields.
And we're sitting amongst a bunch of plants here, the beautiful tropical plants, and so people can come here and visit too.
People can. The greenhouse is open to the public Monday through Friday from 8:30 till 4:30 in the afternoon. It is not open on the weekends, unfortunately.
Well, this is a great place, a local place for people to come without having to travel too far to get a little taste of the tropics in the cold days of winter, and even in the summer to see what kind of flowers are in bloom here. It changes all the time, but I see a lot of other things around here. I know these are pretty high-tech greenhouses. Can you tell us a little bit about how they run?
Well, the big thing is that actually a computer is integrated to all of the environmental controls. So the vents, the shades, the heating, the cooling, the evaporative pads, all of that is integrated into a computer program, and the terminal is in my office. It's also available at home, and so we can manipulate the environment from a guest computer in the office. And we have 11 rooms, and each of them have a designated temperature target. They are a little bit different, so we can really modify and kind of tailor each room, which is really helpful for research, particularly in northern Vermont. We have real short days, and being able to use high-intensity discharge lighting to be able to mimic a long day, so we can tailor things like that.
I know the shade curtains you mentioned to save energy. Not only does it provide shade in summer to keep it cooler, along with the pads that people aren't familiar with, pulls air through from the fans through those cool pads with water, and it basically brings some cool air into the house.
That's right. It's evaporative cooling, which is quite an old technique, but still very effective, and especially when the temperature is hot and dry outdoors, you can drop the temperatures by 6-8 degrees Fahrenheit.
I know, it's one I grew up with in the South, seeing a lot more down there with the hot temperatures, but not necessarily the heat currents, which are great too. They can pull at night, keep the heat down below. That's and right. Not going up top.
Yeah.
But we are amongst all these great plants. It looks like several types of collections. Could you tell us in general what some of these different collections are?
Sure. We have two rooms that we call conservatories, and they are two different environments. We're in conservatory number 1, our brightest and warmest room, and we have a collection of cacti and succulents. Some of them are 20 years or more in age. In the center of the room, we have Bixa annata, and it is the only species of the family Bixaceae and the source of a red food dye, a natural red food dye, annata. We have our little orangerie in the background there with a number of citrus, limes, and kumquat, and orange, and calamandan orange, and small and large size fruits. We have a fairly good collection of orchids behind me, and we also, that collection is extended into house number 2 and number 3 to fit the different light and temperatures that orchids prefer. Then we have water plants. One of the biggest changes here over the past few years has really been developing a friendly environment, having benches for people to sit down, students can come in with their laptops, they can have a meeting in here, but it's also nice to hear water running, and so we've expanded some of the water features and increased the number of plants that are going, aquatic plants inside of those water fountains, and that's a good concentration as well.
Great. So, so the other house, it looks like there's a lot of ferns in there, and I was interested in a comment you made too about the orchids. Some like it obviously warmer here and bright light, maybe a little bit less light or cooler there.
That's true. House number 2, Conservatory 2, mimics a temperate rainforest. Cooler temperatures, much larger upper canopy of tree ferns and cycads, which increases the overall humidity inside of that room. And the plants selected for that room is a combination of temperate and subtropical, even some tropical plants. But they will do very well in intermediate light, just as you imagine walking through a forest.
Well, great. And a couple of plants in particular that I saw in there that I really liked. One is the jewel orchid, which I've had one for years, and I just love the leaves on that. It's blooming. Mine's starting to bloom around, you know, the holiday season, turn of the year, and for a long time. And I guess I just heard that's a steam system that heats it.
That's right.
So all kinds of sounds in the greenhouse here. But we have the jewel orchid. So is that one that I've had good luck with that, easy to grow?
You see it now more often in garden centers that sell orchids. It's a terrestrial orchid, and so long as it is in enough light, that intermediate light, and that it isn't overwatered. You keep it relatively on the drier side for an orchid, that does very well too.
I think that's a good point for most plants, is keep them, if in doubt, I tell people don't water, keep on the dry side, and mine definitely doesn't suffer from
Watering, that's good. That's like my collection at home too.
Yeah, and there's a couple of others in there too. I noticed I guess they're bromeliads in that family. Could you tell us?
This is a great family. This is the pineapple family, and we have a little pineapple developing a fruit right now. But Spanish moss, there are 2 that are flowering during the low winter light that we have right now. The Tillandsia cyanea with a pink feather and a blue bloom, and then a Bellbergia nutans, also called Queen's Tears. Both of those very colorful when they are flowering, and a little bit finicky in terms of as a home plant to grow. But if you have some experience already and your home has a slightly humid environment like a bathroom, or if you're willing to spritz them, both of those bromeliads would do very well.
And I guess the same would apply to the blushing bromeliad. Just so pretty, the variegation in the reddish center on that.
That's even easier because it's the foliage that has the variegation, the green, the white, and the pink, and you just really need to keep the little cup, which is one of the characteristics of bromeliads. There is a wrapping, a whirling of the leaves, and inside is water that's retained. And so long as there's water in those cups, that actually is creating a microclimate of humidity around the bromeliad. So long as you have a little bit of water in the cups, they're good.
Not just for watering the plant, but for a little humidity there too. And I've heard, I don't know if it's true, about maybe insects getting there, and that helps feed the plants too. Is that?
Well, I'm not sure about the breaking down of the insects, but it is true. There are some bromeliads that are huge, so that the cup, might be 6-8 inches in diameter, and as many as 60 different animal species that actually live in that water, and that's more in tropical environments like the Amazon. But you could have tiny frogs, aquatic insects, all kinds of things.
Fascinating family.
It is.
But to follow up another comment you made about the orchids, you mentioned the first one I mentioned, the jewel orchid, was terrestrial. I know most orchids are epiphytic. They live in trees on bark, and I noticed the orchids here are in bark. there's one in particular, I think you said, that's fairly easy, dendrobium?
Easy. Yeah, it's the dendrobium, and I'm not sure if you want me to go pick it up or not.
Well, we can look at that, and
Okay.
in the moth orchid too, I think you said you didn't have one in bloom, but that's also a good one.
That's the most popular. That's the one we see now in garden centers, in grocery stores.
It looks very similar, I think, to dendrobium. I mistook it at first, you know.
That's right. Two easy orchid families to grow at home, orchid genera to grow at home.
Another one I saw that's easy, I found indoors, are the begonias. It's a huge family, and you have a beautiful one. There's just so many different patterned leaves that are so pretty.
Begonias for northern climates are really a perfect houseplant. They love low light. They do well in the home. They take a dry humidity. So it's a perfect one. Lots of colorful leaves and then usually delicate flowers.
Well, I can't visit the tropics here without talking about bananas. It looks like there's one over in the corner.
We do. That banana has been going on for a couple decades now.
Do you ever get bananas?
Oh yeah, we do. We do get bananas, and then mixed in with a couple cousins that also have some fairly gorgeous flowers as well. But the bananas, because again, low light here, it takes a long time for those bananas to mature. But after about 9 months, we'll have a banana.
I know I've got a small one. I just bring in a cool greenhouse or a cool hallway over winter, just keep it so it won't freeze, and then put it out in the summer. So I don't get bananas, but it's a nice tropical effect. We've got quite a few other what are called economic plants, ones that people may know, like you mentioned the pineapple and cinnamon and vanilla. I saw a vine, cacao, their chocolate, and then there's one we've got to mention too, the coffee. I know a lot of people like coffee, but you have quite a few beans that look like on there.
We do. That particular, we call it a shrub because you can prune it either to be a tree or a shrub. We have hundreds of beans on it right now, and it's kind of colorful actually for this time of year too, because the beans start green and then they turn bright red, so you see this big cluster of coffee beans. And if you pop them in your mouth, the juice around the seed is quite sweet.
Oh.
So it looks like a grape. It doesn't really taste like a grape, but it actually is, the fruit is sweeter than you might think. Then the seed itself is roasted, and then you'll see it change its color from that kind of white yellow to a nice dark brown.
Pretty color, yeah. And we talked about research here. Definitely wanted to hit on 3 projects I saw wandering around here. One was, it looks like science, a bunch of beakers with things bubbling. What's that?
It is science. A researcher, Anju Dahalia, has isolated 2 freshwater algal strains, and she is culturing that as a biofuel. And so she is looking at not only the rate of growth, but also the processing in terms of deriving the energy from that algae.
And something didn't look necessarily like research, more like the veg garden, was a bunch of lettuce there. And I understand that's a student project?
It is. At UVM, every student pays, I think it's $20 as part of their tuition, and it goes into the Clean Energy Fund. And then students make proposals every year, and the student body and a review board select a number of projects that will reduce the carbon footprint for the university. And one of the ones for 2011 and 2012, that academic year, was the Slade Residential Greenhouse, which has been here for many years. I think it's been here for 20 years. And instead of letting it just go fallow in the wintertime when it's too cold to grow vegetables, they added on a slow wood chip composting pile behind the small greenhouse, and then are piping that heat and also carbon dioxide into the soil. So they're heating the greenhouse with this compost.
And then they'll put the lettuce in there.
And so the lettuce, we saw lettuce and bok choy and peas and all kinds of cool greens, and so they will be planted in there, and the students will start harvesting that when they come back for
Right.
spring
Well, there's just
semester.
too many other projects. I know people have to come and see for themselves. I know I was interested in one with daylilies, a student, undergrad student breeding daylilies, and there's one on soil pathogens, one on invasive plants, just a lot of research. But if people want to find out more, I understand you have a website. I assume these are up on that?
That's right. Yeah, so UVM's greenhouse website is just UVM Greenhouse, and you can come visit us there. We have a Facebook page, and we post information more recently. It's from moving from the website to the Facebook. We'll put up more information there, but you can come and find out about all kinds of activities that we have going on. You know, people can come here and visit. They can look at bedding plants and different plants that are that they may be interested in for their own garden. So there's a lot going on.
Great. Well, thanks so much for spending some time with us today and sharing the UVM greenhouse and this little taste of the tropics. Thank you for watching today on Across the Fence. For University of Vermont Extension, I'm Leonard Perry.